Brian, did you see this one at Sundance?
Yes.
Ballad of Wallis Island.
Yeah.
I did not see this one at Sundance, but I know that you had mentioned that you'd seen it. I just wasn't sure if it was there. Scott had mentioned that he loved it. So when the opportunity arose and we got a screening, of course I chose this over Minecraft because there was a conflict. And I said, well, I'm going to see a fellow critically acclaimed drama rather than a big budget, lame IP tentpole that may or may not be any good. This is based on a short that the two primaries made back in 2008-ish. Tom Basden and Tim Key, also called Ballad of Wallis Island. To this, they add Carey Mulligan and Sean Clifford. And we get the story of Herb McGwyer, played by Tom Basden, who is hired to come and play a very small concert on the titular island by Charles, played by Tim Key, who is a big fan of McGwyer Mortimer, the band he was in.
Yeah, his earlier
band with Carey Mulligan, who plays Nell Mortimer. And of course, Herb shows up thinking this is going to be some money. I can put it toward my latest solo effort. And little does he realize that Charles is such a big fan of McGwyer Mortimer that he also invites Nell. They are no longer together either professionally or personally. And so things get weird from there. Look, I didn't really know. This is a tough movie to categorize. I mean, clearly it's a drama. It's got music, but it's not a musical. So I think I just referred to it. This is just a movie that reminds you of the power of music and what it does for humanity. That I said, you can't stop what music does to you. You can't avoid it. You can't block it out. If music's going to get you, it's going to get you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And this whole movie, the music gets Charles,
yes.
It gets her, it gets Nell. It's a really, really good movie. So you saw it at Sundance. What was the audience reaction? What did you think? What do you want this movie to be about? What do you think it's about? And how do you think it pulls it off?
Well, Sundance, the reaction was really strong. I believe it was in the premieres category, so not something that gets necessarily voted on. But I mean, it was a fun atmosphere. I did see this Rose Wagner. I just having worked in the music industry, approaching this film. Although I knew nothing about it, to be honest with you, but if it needs to ring true, I guess is the main thing. And from the very, very start, it did feel, like, I mean, it's a little far fetched, but not entirely. But the idea of a musician going and performing a small show on an island is not completely out of the question. There are private shows all the time, and these sort of things do happen. So, but it was even more. It was the performances. But the Charles, the man who has brought the musician to the island, his awkwardness is so strangely charming.
It's an awkward earnestness.
Yes, cluelessness to a certain extent as well. So I just found it to be a delightful film. And again, all I wanted was kind of a sense of reality in it, and I did feel like that it was grounded, for all its silliness, that it was grounded, like you said, in the idea of the power of music. And for the creators of that music, it's kind of a time machine. And so we get to see these characters kind of go back in time to when these songs were new and fresh, because they hadn't played them in years, and they hadn't really even had the idea of getting back together for any reason. And it's the sort of film that you root for everyone in it, pretty much,
right?
Which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, let's talk about the music for a second.
Yeah.
Basically, you would categorize them as like folk.
Yes.
Or folk pop, maybe.
Yeah.
At a stretch. If Dave Matthews made light music. You know what I mean? And that's something. But all the songs were written by Tom Basden. So I assume he's an actual musician who happens to act. They evoke that folk sensibility, which is weird to think about it. That late last year we got the Bob Dylan movie.
Yeah.
Where folk was huge, and now we get another movie based on that. But the songs, yes, some of the lyrics are really cheesy.
Sure.
But then you remember, well, it is folk.
Well,
and a lot of it is just this kind of innocent earnestness, simple way of saying and playing. And so the songs are great. And I don't necessarily have a favorite of the songs, because we don't hear any of them in toto, but they all exist. But man, it would be a shame if one of these doesn't at least get talked about for best original song come end of the year. Just because they're so critical.
Yeah. Well, they pay, and part of the story is about, how Herb as a musician has moved dramatically away from his early material stylistically.
Yep.
And has become wrapped up in the industry,
the business of music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, that part of it is, that's not uncommon. That's a real element. And, there's there's kind of a joke, when people are like, well, I like them, but I like their early stuff.
Right.
A lot of people say, oh yeah, I like the early stuff, which is very common. But in this case,
people think it's derogatory, but really, I mean, it tends to be the purest stuff.
Yeah, it's not necessarily intended to be derogatory. Obviously, artists would like you to like what they're doing currently, but I think to have someone like something you did, regardless of when it happened, is
yes,
a tribute. But and then it's for as, I guess, sort of straightforward as the story is, there are a lot of surprises along the way, and the more you learn about Charles, the more you kind of understand aspects of his personality, and again, this island they're on is hardly habited. There's a handful of people there, and so it's this kind of magical, secluded place as well. There's some romance themes in this, and loss, or maybe not necessarily in the film, but the loss is kind of overshadowing a lot of it. A
lot of the joy. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was. I do think it's a crowd pleaser in the best way.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily give you everything you want.
But you want everything you get.
But yes, yeah, but ultimately, there were choices that are made by, the filmmakers that you think, yeah, that's actually, it may not necessarily be what I wanted as, someone who's involved in the story, but it's probably the most realistic and, in many ways, the best. It takes the best path, I guess, to get to where it is going. This is a very small cast. I think there's 6 or 7 people, 8 maybe in the entire film, and
5 primaries.
So it's just from start to finish, it's a really pleasant, emotionally involving, and an emotional journey, even for the the viewers. So I just, great performances. I really don't have anything negative to say about the film at all.
No, I don't think there is. And yeah, great performances. Carey Mulligan, I described her appearance. She does a flyby.
Yeah.
Because the story is really about Herb and Charles. But because it was a duo and they made the short into a feature, we brought in the other half of that duo.
Yeah.
For a part of it. Like I said, I want to rave on Tim Key as Charles. Because he talks all the time. But he says more when he says nothing in this.
Yeah.
His face, and it sounds so film critic cliche, his eyes are so telling when he's actually at the show listening to the music.
Yeah.
You see simultaneous joy, grief, happiness, love, regret.
Yeah.
Out of a guy who's a comedian. He's a British comedian.
Yeah. It's very very nuanced, and the film is more a comedy maybe than anything else, but that it's not. I think when people think comedy, sometimes they think that it's lacking depth or that it's very superficial and whatnot. But this is a film that is incredibly deep. The characters are, even at their strangest, very approachable, very human. For as bizarre and as weird as Charles is. You almost think, I could hang out with this guy.
Yeah.
I could be around this guy, and yeah, he does some wacky things, but that almost becomes kind of part of the charm of him as well.
Yep, it's why you like him.
It's funny. I think
it can be embarrassing, but
yeah. The only character that maybe you don't ever really kind of involve yourself with in this film is Michael, who is Neil's husband.
Yes.
He's the one that seems the least impacted by the magic of the music. Everyone else seems to kind of be under that, and it's kind of it's a weird situation in that regard. Not a unrealistic one, but you kind of, I don't know, it makes you want certain things that maybe are way too unrealistic, but I don't mind. I like films where you find yourself wanting things for the characters, because that is a signal that obviously you're involved and whatnot. But I think to this point it's my favorite film of the year. Is it the best film of the year? Well, I think you could argue.
October.
Yeah, well, I think you could argue Mickey 13 is maybe a better film, but it's not nearly as enjoyable. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, best. What does best mean? So we'll go right now. We'll go with this is my favorite film I've seen so far this year.
There you go. And surprisingly, actually not when you think about it, it's rated PG-13.
Yeah.
There's wacky.
Yeah. Well,
but there's not a lot in it.
No,
that would make it more than that. A couple curse words.
And you could maybe argue. PG-13 is probably where it should be.
Yeah.
For audience, whatnot. But yeah, it's not. Sundance is known for being edgy and whatnot, but not everything at Sundance is edgy.
No.
And this is very much a Sundance film in that it's an indie. It's kind of quirky, I guess you would say, and it's just it doesn't have the maybe experimental element to it. Although it's not necessarily a traditional film either. I guess it's shot in a traditional way, but I I like that it's PG-13 because that opens the door for a lot more people to see it, and I think it's a film that most people will respond to, particularly if they like music on any level.
Yeah, and I hope it gets the word of mouth that these films need to have a good run. Because everyone knows Minecraft, it's going to make a lot of money. Everyone knows all the other movies, but this one, your friends are going to have to tell you.
Yeah.
To go see this.
Well, and it's, I mean, the title of it is a little. I don't know how you would title the film any differently, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what it's about. So
no, it's an arty title, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it is an arty because I can sit here and explain why the ballad exists on many levels. But so no, but it's definitely worth seeing. People should go see it. It's the quality of film that we keep saying we want.
Yes.
So this is it, people. Go support the quality of the film that you keep saying you want.
Yes, please.
So that's it. We've got some other stuff to talk about that's coming out in weeks ahead, and we will get to those. But until we do, don't forget to like us and follow us on social media. Go to the website, vsmoviepodcast.com. It's got links to all that stuff. It's got all our written stuff. There's good stuff. There's still good stuff. This is one of them. So make time for the Ballad of Wallis Island. Till next time, take it easy, stay safe. I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you, folks.
And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.